Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Zenatan, and welcome to today's that's not how I do my intro, but welcome to today's video for Legends of Runeterra. Now, let's try not to get tongue-tied in the first literally 10 seconds of the video. But yes, welcome to today's video for Legends of Runeterra. Today is another champion and the last day for spoiler season because tomorrow we'll have the new set come out, Beyond the Bandlewood. So today, final champion, it is another Yordle. It's a dual region card. It's not a control card, in my opinion, but it's a pretty decent card. It's ZIGGS. So he is a dual region card, like I said. He also has landmark synergy too, so like a lot of us thought, he's pairing up with Xerath. Landmark destruction synergy is what I meant to say. But yeah, he's also a Bandle City Shurima dual region card, multi-region card. So I'll be honest with you, my league lore knowledge is not the best, but I still know a decent amount in my opinion. I don't think there's any like previous lore that really hinted towards ZIGGS being in Shurima. Like everyone's like, yeah, ZIGGS is Zon. ZIGGS goes in Zon. So everyone's like PNZ, Bandle City probably for ZIGGS, and then they put him in Shurima. I assume that's because of balance, and balance always takes precedence over lore, like balance slash gameplay or whatever. So that's my assumption, unless there's like some random like piece of lore that I just can't remember that could justify ZIGGS being in Shurima. But it's definitely not the first time a champion goes in a region where it doesn't really have much connection to that region. For example, recently we got Nami and Bilgewater. The only real connection for that was Nami is a fish person, and Kindred, Shadow Isles, and it was like Kindred's kind of spooky, and that's it. But yeah, so enough rambling now because we're rambling a lot. Let's actually look at ZIGGS and talk about him because we have a lot of cards to go through today. So, ZIGGS is a 3-mana 3/4. Pretty good stats for the cost. 3-mana 3/4 is probably, without being overstated, the best stat allocation in my opinion for a 3-drop, unless you want like a 2/5 and you want to make like a really defensive 3-drop. But all around in general, the best allocation. You can argue like, for like aggro decks, you'd rather have a 4/3, like really defensive decks, 2/5. Sure, those are more fringe cases. But in general, 3/4 is the best. It blocks a lot of stuff, dodges a lot of removal. Just in general, it's not really nice. But yeah, like I said, Bandle City Shurima card. Also Yordle. I don't believe we saw any Yordle synergy, by the way, in this preview season, spoiler season. But yeah, ZIGGS, what does he actually do? Well, whenever he attacks, he deals 1 to his blocker and the enemy nexus. And this is a ability, so you can interact with it. So you can place spells and combat tricks before it goes off. You can counter it if you want with a deny or something. So that's cool. Before we talk too much about that, though, let's look at more of ZIGGS and how he levels up. So to level up, it's pretty much the exact same way to level up Xerath. So automatically, there's kind of like a pre-built theme going on with Xerath. Just destroy 4 allied landmarks. And when he levels up, now he deals 2 instead of 1 to both his block and the enemy nexus. But he gets the additional sentence of when an allied landmark is destroyed, deal 2 to the enemy nexus. So a little extra burn. So it's pretty nice. I don't know what I think about this. Like, I think he's good. Being in a dual region gives him some flexibility. So I know a lot of people will appreciate that. Like I said, the obvious deck is a Xerath ZIGGS landmark destruction deck. But I feel like ZIGGS can go into other decks. When I look at ZIGGS, he kind of reminds me of Misfortune. Sure, ZIGGS has to attack, and he only deals the 1 to the blocker instead of everything on every blocker like Misfortune does. But, you know, sure, that's overall weaker than Misfortune, but it's not terrible, I'd say. Like, it's still solid. And ZIGGS' health is fairly high for a 3-drop especially, so he can attack in and feel relatively safe, I feel. And I guess I should say, like, obligated, he's a gift for Renekton, so you got to be careful on 3 when you drop him on 3 and your opponent has 3 mana. If they're in Shurima, he might just become a gift for Renekton and just die. So yeah, again, like another quick thing to mention, he doesn't have to see these landmarks getting destroyed, so it's actually not that difficult to level him up. And when he levels up, he's actually really, really good. Dealing 2 to a blocker is going to kill a lot of chump blockers. If you can give him Overwhelm somehow, I can see like a very scary deck being a thing. What's it called? Herald of the Magus. The 5 mana 4/4 that says when it's summoned, if you destroyed 4 of your landmarks, all of your champions get +2/+2 and Overwhelm. So your Ziggs will have Overwhelm. It'll be a 6/7. Sure, that's a little late, but you know, like if you can somehow curve like turn 1 Ancient Preparations, turn 2 like Preservarium, turn 3 Ziggs, turn 4 Xerath. The problem with this is you're not going to have enough landmarks getting destroyed, so you're not going to have an on-curve Herald. But then you got also like not Roiling Sands, Unraveled Earth. That brings out 2 Roiling Sands, so maybe that? But yeah, I feel like it's going to be impossible to play like turn 3 Ziggs, turn 4 Xerath, and level them up on turn like 3/4. But yeah, I like him. I like this card. I think with Herald of the Magus, it's a very scary deck. So yeah, between Ziggs dealing a lot of Nexus damage and just being a little annoying to block, Xerath pinging stuff down as well, I feel like this Landmark Destruction deck definitely has some legs to it. I don't think it's going to be a top tier meta shaping deck, but I do think it will have something going on with it. Now, how powerful it would be, I honestly think it's going to be like low tier 2, maybe not even, maybe tier 3. But yeah, so what is his champ spell though? Let's look at that. That might improve his playability. Bouncing Bomb. 3 mana slow spell, deal 2 to an enemy. Or deal 1 to 2 enemies. So here's the issue. Sure, it gives you options. And getting options in card games is good. Look at like, I don't know, Three Sisters. Three Sisters is a pretty solid card because of the options. Look at Invoke. Invoke, besides the value it gives, giving you options is really good. Same with things like Predict, Time Trick, etc., etc. So whenever there's a card that has multiple options, multiple modes, if you will, you always need to take into consideration that because you're going to pay a premium for the versatility, the flexibility it gives you. Even putting that in consideration, I'm not the biggest fan of this card. I look at this card as like, it's a good champion spell, but it's not really a card I want in my deck. But then again, it's a Bandle City card, and Bandle City's removal is not the greatest, so I could see you playing this in a Bandle City deck anyway. Because, I don't know, just comparing this to Mystic Shot, and before you say like, well, Mystic Shot's one of the best cards in the game, sure. You're getting extra flexibility compared to Mystic Shot, but you have to pay 1 extra mana. Your spell's now slow as well. So I'm not a fan of it. I will say this too, like there is also the potential with like some kind of spell damage boost, like Powder Kegs or Funsmith. And then you use the second mode, and then it's like dealing a lot of damage, so it's dealing 2 to 2 things. That's pretty cool. But yeah, I think this is not a good card. It's not strong, but I do think it might see play in constructed decks outside of Zig decks because Bandle City it doesn't seem like it has that much direct removal in my opinion. So I feel like you have to play if you want direct removal, you have to either play bad cards like Bouncing Bomb or hope your other secondary region will help you out. Like maybe your secondary region's Piltover and Zon. But yeah, so as for Ziggs himself, I feel like there are 2 decks, in my opinion, for Ziggs. The first one's the obvious one, Ziggs Xerath, Landmark Destruction. The other one is more of a meme. It's less viable, in my opinion, and I don't honestly know who to pair with Ziggs in this deck, but ZIGGS Funsmith deck. So, you know, you, like I said earlier, you use Funsmith, you play a bunch of these spells and abilities. So obviously you have to play P and Z with that. So I guess like Ezreal's a decent champ to pair up with that. You maybe Vi, Teemo if you want to go a little more aggressive. I don't think Caitlyn would be good because you're trying to do like traps and landmark destruction. The issue I have with that deck idea is, are there enough landmarks to destroy to level up ZIGGS consistently? And you might say, like, well, with Funsmith on the field, it's like you leveled up ZIGGS. Sure, the problem is, remember, Funsmith is a 4-mana 1/3. It's going to be a little tough for that thing to stay alive. And obviously, because we're a Bandle City deck, because I think it'd be better to play ZIGGS as a Bandle City card in a Funsmith deck than a Shurima card, you'll have access to the Bandle City cards, such as Stress Defense. And I guess Mini Morph would be nice too. Anyway, let's look at the other cards. Page number 2. First off, this first card, holy cow. This card's great. Well, okay, let me rephrase it. This card's not great. This card's good for the right archetype, which is Landmark Destruction. Inventive Chemist. 1 mana 2/1. When I'm summoned, summon a Scrappy Bomb. First off, extra cute. Like, Inventive Chemist, extra cute. Let me weeb out a bit, okay? Look at how cute she is. Like, look at the goggles. That's cute. Anyway, though, what is a Scrappy Bomb? Well, Scrappy Bomb is a 1 mana landmark that says countdown 3, or when I'm destroyed, deal 1 to the enemy nexus. So this kind of sucks. Like, the landmark sucks, but the Chemist is fine. This is doing exactly what I feel like you want in your landmark destruction decks. 1 mana 2/1 is a solid stat line. Puts a lot of pressure on if your opponent doesn't play any blockers. So I say a lot, but it makes it so 2/1 stat line makes it so your opponent can't really ignore it. It's going to keep hitting you and chipping you down, especially in a ZIGGS deck. That extra little bit of chip damage is really annoying. It's really good defensively too, being able to block things like that are 2-drops or 1-drops that are 3/2s or 2/2s or whatever. So I like 1 mana 2/1s. I'm a big fan of 1 mana 2/1s in general. So yeah, I like this card. So this card, Rockhopper, I guess you could argue Action as well, but not really, are definitely some cheap cards that can give you landmarks early on in the game. What else is there? I guess Unraveled Earth too. I always mention that. That's definitely a thing. Unraveled Earth into Desert Naturalist is definitely a solid curve. So I like this card, a big fan of it. My biggest issue with the card that I'm a little sad about is it's not a multi-region card. It's a Bandle City only card, so I can't play this in like a Malphite deck. In other words, a Shurima Targon deck. So that's a little sad. So if I wanted to play this in a Targon deck, I'd have to be like Bandle City Targon, which honestly sounds worse than Shurima because you lose out on Talia, and I think Talia Malphite just go really well together. Next card. Now this card I really, really like, Bomber Twins, and I like this not just as for a landmark synergy deck, just in general. 2 mana 3/2, already a solid premium stat line for a 2-drop. When I'm summoned, create a random landmark that costs 2 or less in hand. You might say like, okay, why do you like this card, streamer? 1, multi-region, so it can go into a lot of different decks. So you can go in both like Shurima decks and Bandle City decks. So that's already a great thing for me. Solid stat line. Doesn't really ask you to do anything else. You just play this and you immediately get the landmark. The randomness is a little bit bad. There are some pretty bad landmarks that are cheap. That will just do nothing for you outside of being just a landmark that sits there and takes up a spot, like Frozen Thrall. Frozen Thrall is pretty bad to hit from this, I'd say. But yeah, like cards that replace themselves, in my opinion, are always a card to watch out for. And you might say like, oh, so you're gonna play this in like a landmark-oriented deck? Not necessarily. I'm thinking some kind of Targon deck. So like Zoe plus like 3 Zoes, and then as for the other champions, maybe like a Leona and 2 Aurelion Souls, or 2 Leonas and Aurelion Soul, maybe like 3 Zoes, a Diana, and 2 Aurelion Souls, something like that. And then I play like Bomber Twins and Loping Telescope as my 2-drops. Just have my cars just be okay statted for their cost, or good for their cost, while generating more and more card advantage for me, and just win with raw card advantage. You know, the Targon Classic. How good is that going to be? I don't think it's going to be that good. But yeah, I like Bomber Twins. Favorite card we've seen today, probably. Now the next card, Safety Inspector. 6 mana, 6/6. Round start, create a Inspection Past in hand. Inspection Past is a 0 mana slow speed fleeting spell that says destroy an allied landmark to deal 3 to anything. So it can hit units. So think of it like Noxian Fervor. It's pretty much exactly Noxian Fervor, but instead of hitting your own units for 3, you have to destroy a landmark. I like it. When I first saw this card, I was like, wow, it's kind of like Jack the Winner, the 5 mana 5/5 who creates the 0 mana deal 2 to a unit to deal 2 to your enemy's Nexus. The issue is, compared to Jack, this guy is asking for a tougher to enable condition, because Jack's just like, just have units to hit, and you could hit himself if you want. Safety Inspectors being like, okay, you need landmarks, which if you in the dedicated landmark deck that's playing Safety Inspector, that's not too difficult, but it might be a little bit hard. The other issue is he's slow. Like, he's really slow, and we're in a really fast meta, and I don't see the meta slowing down anytime soon, especially with these new cards. So yeah, if the guy said like round start, and when he's played, you get an Inspection Past in hand, I'd be a little more high up on this guy. Kind of like, you know, how Victor gets his Augment card when you play him. I'd be more impressed by this guy. But still, dealing 3 to anything on board, so even your own stuff, I guess, if you want to activate like Last Breath or something, is pretty strong in my opinion. So I like him, because, like, sure, ignoring like random ramp stuff and discount cards, the earliest you're getting the first Inspection Pass is turn 7. So yeah, but I do think this definitely fits into the Xerath ZIGGS landmark destruction archetype, and I could see myself playing like 2 of these in the Xerath ZIGGS deck. But again, like I said, it's slow, but the nice thing is he is pretty tanky. Like 6/6 for 6 is a pretty solid stat line. Like, that's the same exact stat line as 6 mana Cytherea, and 6 mana Cytherea is definitely playable. Now, granted, she's a lot faster than Sky and does a lot more than Sky, but as long as you get like 1 Inspection Pass, this guy's paid off, I think. Anyway, next cards. First off, the Arsenal. 8 mana, 8/6. That's it. Bandle City only card as well. I have a random keyword for each allied landmark you've destroyed this game. So, like Safety Inspector, I will say this: he's extremely slow. Even slower. The other problem I have with this guy is RNG. I'm not a big fan of heavy RNG cards, which is, well, I like playing Victor. I don't like Victor when I'm trying to be more competitive. I feel like you're going to need to hit like 6 landmarks destroyed before you play this guy to be happy about it. And even then, it's slow. So yeah, but like, I feel like when you play him by turn 8, so by the time this guy is your finisher, I feel. Like, you need him to finish. So you're looking for really, really good keywords. So like, what off the top of my head, like in the late game, Overwhelm, Elusive are the 2 I'm thinking of. Challenger's not terrible if you get it paired with Tough or Regeneration. Lifesteal can be useful against the more aggro decks. And then the other issue is, if you, let's say you don't get that many landmarks destroyed and you're in a bad spot and you have to play this guy, and let's say you get like 3 landmarks. There are some pretty mediocre keywords, like Fearsome in the late game is kind of meh. Impact's not that great. Scouts and Fury is not amazing. Like, Scouts is good if you build your deck around Scouts, but just random Scouts not amazing. So, yeah, I'm not too much of a fan of this kind of card that's just heavy RNG, and on top of that, it's just slow. So, yeah, I could see maybe a 1 or a 2 up in the Landmark Destruction deck as a finisher, but I don't think those decks really need this as a finisher, in all honesty. Okay, so the next card. 1 mana Landmark Hexplosive Minefield. I'll say it before I even read the card. Yasuo. When I'm summoned or destroyed, stun the strongest enemy. So a 1 mana stun. That's pretty good. It's like a Solari Sunhawk, but you don't have to Daybreak. But the exchange is, the trade-off is you don't have a body left behind, like the Sunhawk's a 2/3 that gets left behind. Now, granted, the other trade-off is this card's 1 mana cheaper, and it helps your Landmark synergy, and you can get another stun if you destroy it. So that's cool. Like, I definitely think this card's actually solid. Like, Bandle City does have some other stun cards, so maybe there's a Yasuo deck out there, but I'll be honest with you, while I think this card is not unplayable and it's actually kind of good, I don't think it's for a Yasuo deck, at least for now. Maybe we'll see some more stun cards in the future, so Yasuo will have a thing, but I honestly look at this as more of a tempo style card. It's a 1 mana stun, really. Like, let's say you play it, you stun the strongest unit, and then you destroy it, stun another unit. That's pretty good tempo right there. Also, like other stuns, it's not like an ability, so your opponent can't respond to it, like, you know, how Leona and Sunhawk's stuns are, which is both a good and bad thing. It's a side grade, so it doesn't pop Spell Shield, it goes through Spell Shield, so that can be either good or bad depending on how you look at it. So that's nice. So yeah, I like this card. I just don't know exactly what deck I would play it in. Now, the next couple of cards, I'm sorry, they're kind of bad. Mega Inferno Bomb. 7 mana slow spell. Deal 1 to all enemies, and then do it again. Ignoring any kind of setup, the card by itself is terrible. You might argue like, oh, it's a one-sided avalanche. Sure. Yeah, but it gets countered by tough first off, which it's not that common, but who knows? Ranger's Resolve might become a thing again. Also, with the way it's worded, I'm not sure. Like, the question I have is, how's this interact with Spell Shield? Does the first ping pop the Spell Shield, and then the second ping deal 1 to the enemy unit? Or does Spell Shield block both of the pings? I feel like it's the first case scenario where the first ping pops Spell Shield, and then the next ping will deal damage to the unit. Also, the way I'm reading this, it should be similar to Death's Hand. The 3 mana deal 2 to a unit, then deal 1 to the enemy face. And the reason I'm mentioning that is because of cards like Powder Kegs. I feel like if you have a Powder Keg, this will deal 2 to everything on your opponent's side, and then 2 to everything again, so 4 damage in total. The other situation is it will deal 2 to everything at first, and then just deal 1 to everything. But I don't think it will do that. I think it will do the prior. So I can see some synergy with cards that buff spell damage like Powder Kegs and Funsmith, but I don't know. It feels like Riot's just a little scared to give Control a good card, because this is obviously a control card. You're not playing this in any kind of tempo deck, because this is a huge tempo loss. I guess you could argue like maybe more of a mid-range deck would play a effect like this, since it's one-sided, but yeah, this is a control card. Or at least it's trying to be a control card. I don't know. I feel like this card's just overcost. Way too much mana. Maybe at like 5 mana I could see this getting played. Or at the very least, like maybe if it was a fast speed spell, sure. Like This card, like, let's keep it at 7 mana and put it at fast speed. Would it be busted? I honestly don't think so. Sure, you can argue like, well, streamer, there's that card in Bilgewater that's like 2 mana to summon a powder keg, and that's at burst speed, so that's a combo. I'm like, yeah, okay. A 2-card 9 mana combo to deal, in essence, 4 damage to all of your opponent's stuff. And then it's still kind of soft counterable because your opponent can just Vile Feast or remove the powder. So yeah, I'm not seeing that. Like, you can argue all day that like, oh, but powder kegs with this. Like, yeah, okay, but even aggro decks and mid-range and tempo, whatever decks, they all usually have a few cards that can deal with cards like powder in a pinch, like Vile Feast or something. And now for the last card. Yordle Contraption. 5 mana slow spell. Bandle City only card. It's also our landmark destruction for the region, and it's bad in general, in my opinion. Destroy a landmark or create 2 random multi-region followers in hand. I like these kind of cards that are landmark destruction cards that are good even if your opponent's not playing landmark cards. The issue is it's just bad in general. 5 mana slow speed destroy a landmark is god awful. Like, very, very rarely will I be happy to play this card. Now, creating 2 multi-region followers is kind of cool for like a Bandle tree deck. The problem is, like I said earlier, it's slow. And I don't mean like the speed is slow. I mean the card itself is slow. Like, I'm spending 5 mana to not affect the board at all. And you might say, well, you're paying a premium for the choice. Sure, but like, I'd rather just not put this card in my deck. Okay, I'm sorry. Like, you got to pay the mana to get the cards, and then you got to pay the mana to actually play the cards. And you might say like, well, it's obviously for the Bandle Tree deck, because Bandle Tree can go slow because it can win right away thanks to its effect. Sure. How many Bandle trees are going to get destroyed with like things like Desert Naturalist and Scorched Earth? A lot is what I'm going to tell you right away. So yeah, I'm at 5 mana and at slow speed. I'm not a fan of this card. If this card was like 3 mana and slow, maybe, but at 5 mana, it's just too much for me. Maybe at like 4 mana and fast, sure, but again, even at 5 mana and fast, I'm still not a fan of this card. But especially at 5 mana and slow speed, I'm not a fan of this card at all. Way too expensive, way too slow. Even in a slower meta, I'm not a fan of it. So yeah. Yeah, so that's ZIGGS. Seems pretty cool though, but like, I feel like ZIGGS is definitely a strong card. Definitely some strong support cards, not these right here, but definitely some strong support cards. And I believe we still have a few more cards that haven't been revealed that we'll see tomorrow. Hopefully some more that are good. But yeah, that will be it for today's video. That is ZIGGS. Seems strong. Maybe you disagree. Maybe you think ZIGGS isn't that good. Maybe you think that Yordle Contraption and Mega Inferno Bomb are good, and I'm wrong. And maybe you think Yasuo Bandle City will be good with Hexplosive Minefield. I don't think so, but maybe you think so. I'd love to hear why you think so. And if you just liked the video in general, if you just enjoyed it in general, I'd love it if you could leave a like or a comment down below. And if you guys want to keep up with the Legends of Runeterra content, you can always go and subscribe to the channel. Also, if you want to watch me play some Legends of Runeterra, you can always go and check me out over on Twitch at twitch.tv/Zeniton. I stream there pretty much every single day. Anyway, though, with that all said and done, thank you all again once more for watching this video, and until I see you guys in the next one,